there is also the fact that, music is a language that anyone can speak, anyone can sing, anyone can tell stories. And I think any voice can sing country music. If the stories reverb with you, I think she talks about how it's a gong that hits in your heart, in your soul. If you feel that, if you listen to something country, if you listen to country music and you can, you get sad or you get feel something, that's okay. You're just as country as anybody else can.
This is Story to Count with Jen Jumba. In conversations with writers, something magical happens, and as readers, we begin to see them as human beings and not just the name on the spine of a book. And my hope is, through these conversations, you learn about their craft, them as a person, and you'll become like me, fiercely loyal, want to read their current book, entire backlist, any future book, or any book they blurb. And when you see their name, you'll want to support them not only as incredible storytellers, but also the thoughtful individuals you have come to know. A guest today is Lori Rader-Day. She is an Edgar Award nominated and Agatha Anthony and Mary Higgins Clark award-winning author of Wreck Your Heart, The Death of Us, Death at Greenway, The Lucky One, Under a Dark Sky, The Day I Died, Little Pretty Things, and The Black Hour. She lives in Chicago, where she is the co-chair of the Mystery Readers Festival Midwest Mystery Conference and served as the 2019-2020 National President of Sisters in Crime. She teaches creative writing for Northwestern University School of Professional Studies. Now, I've known Lori for a while, and I once bribed her to visit my library for the promotion of her latest book because I knew she was a fan of A Christmas Story. The house and museum is here in Cleveland. However, that house and museum were closed for renovations, and there was an epic snowstorm. Then she came back to Cleveland on my first day of work in my current library with Ann Cleves. So there I am, hanging out with Lori and Ann before their event. Best first day ever. So I'm so excited to talk to you about your latest book, Wreck Your Heart.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Anytime I get to talk to Jen.
You're too kind. So let's talk a little bit about this book. Do you want to introduce us to Doll Divine?
Dahlia Divine, also known as Doll, she is a force of nature, I think. She is one of the most fun characters I have ever written. I kind of miss her already. But she came to me because I had been looking for some way to have more fun in writing. It's not ditch digging, but it's sometimes difficult. And I was just looking for more fun. And I had been listening to country music, something that was a little bit surprising to me. I found some country music that I really liked and started exploring the genre. And she evolved from that exploration of country music and just the things that were bringing me joy.
I can tell you as a reader, she was probably one of my favorite characters that you've written. Just a great presence on the page. And as a reader, I mean, I don't know what you call it technically for writing, but she gives these asides to us as a reader. Like she's involved, she's doing something, and then it's like she turns to us and is like, hey, and they're funny, laugh out loud comments.
Yeah, the first time that happened, I thought, am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to? I think it's called breaking the fourth wall from theater, where the actor, the character on stage will turn to the audience and talk to them directly. Direct address, I think, is what it's called in writing. So yeah, Dahlia talks to the reader a little bit.
And she just is flat out funny. You are a very funny individual. I've known that, for quite a while. Just this great sense of humor, this sense of quick wit. And you've captured that in this character as well.
Hopefully I can capture it today while we're talking. But I used to, I do a lot of events, like panel events at conferences, which is where we met.
Yeah.
But I get asked a lot, especially if I'm the moderator of a panel, if I'm in charge of the panel, I like to make them fun. I get asked a lot if my books are funny. And usually I have to say, oh, no, they are. If you're looking for a laugh, don't go looking at The Death of Us, right? Like, that is, sometimes there are funny lines, there are moments that are light, but until this book, it has not been something I would recommend to read me for laughs. But I definitely wanted to go lighter on the story. It wasn't we can talk about all of these things if you're interested. But I was looking for a way to have more fun in the process of writing. I've always enjoyed myself as a writer, setting little challenges for myself. This time I'm going to do this, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, the entire goal was to have more fun in the process of writing for me, but then also make sure that when people read it, they also got to have that level of enjoyment, that kind of lighter, hopefully laugh inducing
I mean,
response.
writing is a very solitary pursuit. So one would think that if you're going to embark on writing, you should have fun doing it. I understand it's a ton of work. And I read this book twice, once when there was an e-galley very early on, and then again, and I laughed just as much the second time reading it as I did the
Yay!
first time. So I'm glad that you had fun. That comes across on the page as a reader for sure.
Yeah, I really wanted to have more fun. It was, I'm going to dig in here.
Absolutely.
I started writing this book in 2020, sort of by accident. It was not really a book. It was when I was the national president of Sisters in Crime, which is a 5,000 member writing association. Well, I don't say writing association, it's a crime fiction association. So readers, librarians, publicists, anyone who loves crime fiction can join and find value there. But I was their national president in 2019. And then, as you might remember, 2020 was not a good time to be in charge of anything. All I did was send memos saying you can't get together. You stop having meetings. We can't get together. The pandemic lockdown. We can't do anything. So I was their pandemic president. I didn't get to go anywhere. I didn't get to go and talk to audiences about how great Sisters in Crime was. And I thought I was going to be great at that part, and I didn't get to do any of it. So one of the things we were trying to do was to really reach out to find, new members, like get our name out there to a wider audience, even though we couldn't go anywhere. And so we sponsored National Novel Writing Month, which is now the organization is defunct, but we didn't break it, we swear. But we sponsored it, and
Crime
and
writing.
then yeah, we broke it. We didn't. No, they broke themselves. So we put all these events and resources together so that our members could do a month of challenge writing. The main challenge was to write 50,000 words in a month, which is not impossible, but difficult. It's a pretty hardcore schedule. And so we set up all this stuff to do it, except I had never done that kind of challenge. I was all for it, but I had never done it myself. And I was also in between projects at the moment when we were supposed to be, writing very intensely. So the night before the challenge, so October 31st, 2020, I have to start writing, 1,800 words every day. The next day, I sat down and wrote a list of things I was enjoying, things that were giving me joy in 2020, which was
A very short list. No, I'm kidding.
not a joyful time,
No,
if
not
you
a
all
joy. So you
recall.
look for it anywhere. Right.
And so it was things like country music, which I had recently sort of come back to. I was as a child, I liked country music. I was around country music a lot. But I had discovered Brandy Carlisle is the intrigue, the gateway drug to country music, and Jason Isbell, people like that. I was really enjoying their music, and so I put that on the list. And then dogs. My dog had died in 2019, but we'd just gotten a puppy, Clementine. So even though she was ruling my life with an iron fist, an iron paw, I loved her so much. I was so happy to have her. So dogs. But I missed my city. I missed Chicago so much. And I missed being able to just go hang out with some friends and have a drink in front of a fireplace at a pub. And so I wrote down, beer, Chicago. And I was also uh, carb counting, you know, just because 2020 wasn't a horror show enough.
That bring you joy list. That was
No,
a
I
different
mean,
list.
it was cereal. I put cereal because I missed cereal. That was the one thing I really missed. And so the next morning I started writing about country music, dogs, Chicago, beer, cereal. And
Cereal parfaits, I should say.
well, and I took the cereal mostly out in the final edit, but it was there for a long time. Like it was like a real focus. And that's how the story began. I did not win, quote unquote, the challenge. I didn't get 50,000 words in a month. I think November is a terrible time to try to uh, to be like intensely writing. But I got 15,000 words that I would never have created. And then I put that experiment away, finished out, the rest of my duties as sync national president, and then I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I had a lockdown like everybody else, and then I had a second lockdown. And after I wrote a book and I published that book, it was called The Death of Us. I'm very proud of it, but it's a dark book. And after breast cancer treatment, I'm fine. I'm 4 years out. We're
Yes.
heading toward the finish
Thank
line here.
goodness.
I wanted something that was more fun. I wanted something that was lighter. I just wanted it. I needed to have more fun with the process. It takes so very much time and brain power and all the hours of my day, basically, to write these books and then promote them. And I just really wanted to have some fun. So I discovered those 15,000 words after I had finished The Death of Us and turned it in. I went looking through all my, scraps in my laptop and found those 15,000 words, started reading it, and made myself laugh.
And you're funny to begin with. So if you can make yourself laugh with your own words, that is a gift.
I think it's not easy, right? I don't know. I've never done it before, not in that way. I made myself laugh, and I thought, well, I don't know. Is this a book? Is this really this experiment, this dogs and cereal thing? Is this really a book? So I showed it to my agent, and she loved it. So I finished the book, and it was a joy. It wasn't easy to write that book, but it was joyful
Is
to
it
write
ever
that book.
easy to write a book? I mean, you've
God, I don't
written
know.
so many and won mega awards for them. So would any of them be considered easy?
This, if I had to pick one that was easy, it would be Wreck Your Heart. But I can't call it easy, even though it was the easiest. It came the easiest. It didn't come the fastest. My fastest draft was The Death of Us, which took 5 months from beginning to end. Yeah, that's very fast for me. I'm a pretty slow, meticulous kind of person when it comes to the first draft, and then I revise very, very deeply. But Wreck Your Heart, it wasn't easy. It was easier, but it was also, I think it was because it was so joyful that I would be excited to get to the page. So then that made it easier to get started every day, and then, or not every day, because I don't write every day necessarily, but it made it something that I wanted to return to. I wanted to see what would happen to Dahlia and, what kind of scrapes she would get into and how she would get out of them.
Yeah, I think everybody listening will feel the same way, that you'll want to just keep flipping the pages to figure out what's happening. I mean, just even the opening scene, right? And how she describes things. She's evicted from her apartment because rent wasn't paid, and she has all her belongings in a trash bag. And she says, all the worldly possessions I've been allowed to keep, money grab games, except the big door prize in this case was all my own crap. Just the description and her internal dialogue of how she interacts with the world, how she sees the world, how she's constantly singing and not realizing she's singing. It's just fun, her perspective.
When I had so much fun with her, I mean, just really getting into her mindset. She's a very different person than I am in many, many ways. I didn't have a hard scrabble life like she's had a terrible go of it, really, as a
Right.
child. She's estranged from her mother at an early age and then was in foster care. When you see her with her bag of crap, as she calls it, as an adult, this is not new to her. She's carried a bag of crap with her from home to home, most of her life. But I gave her, I think, my attitude, it's just like, yeah, like, what is the thing I would want to say right now? And so she gets to say everything that you can, every, I don't know, sarcastic thing that she can think to say, she gets to say it. That's who Dahlia is.
She even talks about, like, when she enters, the bar where Alex is, and she lives shares an apartment upstairs, was kind of taking her in after she's evicted. And she just says things like, hoisting my bag of negative self-worth. And it's just laugh out loud funny. I think we can all relate. And then I think there's that sometimes it's such a tough situation. So we find humor in those dark situations as a way to try to cope.
I mean, that's what I do. I don't know about you, Jen, but I definitely am always
I make
looking
jokes.
for
My mom's like, this is not funny. It's like, well,
Isn't it? I mean, we're going to laugh at it someday, right?
Yeah, so
Why
laugh
not
now. And
start now?
yeah,
Yeah, I
doesn't
just
always go over well with my mom, but
oh, yeah. Well, moms are a topic for this.
exactly. Do you want to talk about Marissa?
Marissa, she's such an interesting character, I think. I have a very good mom, a very
Hmm.
loving mother.
Me too.
And I keep writing these terrible mothers, and people are like, what was your childhood like? It was great. It was, loving parents. They were just young.
Nobody reads about that on the page. People don't want to
It's
read
a
about.
very short book, is honestly, if everybody has great parents, it's a very short story. She's interesting. Her name is Marissa. She's actually named for a reader who won her a naming opportunity in an auction, a charity auction. And then one day I got an email from Marissa Young. And I for a second there, I'm like, why is my character email? Oh, right. Okay, right. uh Marissa is, she's made some mistakes. I don't think that she necessarily hides from that. But, Dahlia's entire life has been wrecked, to
Hmm.
use her term, because Marissa couldn't get it together when she had a child to take care of. She has since gotten her act together, but I mean, the question is it in time for that to be of use to Dahlia? You
Yeah.
could see it either way.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not an introduction that Dahlia sees coming. I mean, kids who are in the foster care system at a young age might not remember their mom, but kind of make up stories about who they think they would be or how they would act when they meet them. And you kind of see this as Dahlia's kind of processing the fact that, 25 years later, she's about ready to get on stage to sing, and there's her mom sitting at the bar.
Yeah, there's this woman showing up, who
Yeah,
wants to talk, and she doesn't necessarily want to have that conversation on. She wants to have it on her own timeline, maybe not just because Marissa wants to have it. And she does have an image of her mom. She sort of always kind of saw her as like this fierce redhead. She it just like that's what she's got in her head, that she somehow was, that she kind of remembered her as being something that maybe had some merit. Like she gives her a little bit of credit, but then, the reality is this is just a human being who dropped the ball and then got it together, but got it together not in time for Dahlia.
correct. Let's talk a little bit about country music.
Mm.
I also am a fan and didn't really know about it till I went to school for undergrad in the South. And I was like, these are just really cool stories.
Yeah.
And so absolutely, enjoy Brandy Carlisle, as you said, obviously that one of the gateways, but just spectacular in terms of telling stories that we all relate with. So, talking about country music and the argument about country music being a place, because here Dahlia is, and she's in Chicago, she's not in Nashville, the kind of epicenter of country music. And so she's talking and saying like country wasn't a place, it wasn't one kind of music or one kind of singer. She talks about how the soul of country music reverbs with loneliness.
Yeah. It's really, I think, and this is all me. This is, I love country music, and here I am living in Chicago proper. Well, first of all, Chicago does have a country music scene. It does have a country music history. It was actually the epicenter of country music before Nashville, before Austin. So there was a radio station called WLS, and it had what they called the barn dance, and it was the precursor to the Grand Ole Opry, was in Chicago, 2 years before the Grand Ole Opry. So there's that. There's the case that, Chicago is just as country as anywhere else. But there is also the fact that, music is a language that anyone can speak, anyone can sing, anyone can tell stories. And I think any voice can sing country music. If the stories reverb with you, I think she talks about how it's a gong that hits in your heart, in your soul. If you feel that, if you listen to something country, if you listen to country music and you can, you get sad or you feel something, that's okay. You're just as country as anybody else.
Yeah, there you go. And I think at one point she talks about wanting to be the kind of singer that when she sings whatever that song, that people remember where they were, they remember who they were with, They remember what they were doing. And it's amazing because I think about that. We all have music that we associate with certain times in our lives, or, you hear a song on the radio and you're like, oh my God, I can remember exactly where I was, who I was with, what we were doing. And
Absolutely.
that nostalgia that comes back is like a gift that it continues. You continue to be reminded of the good times, sometimes the not so good times when a particular song comes on.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the joy of music. It's I think the senses is how we remember things. It's how we experience the world and then how we remember our experiences. I think the science says that smell is one of the most memorable senses. If you smell something that is going to trigger, a memory, like, the cookies your mom used to bake, or, or your grandma, used to make this special whatever dish. But I think the music like sends you right back. It's a time machine. It sends you right back to the time of your life when you listen to that song over and over and over again, or the song, reminded you of a boy you liked, or that kind of thing is just, it's magic. And I love it. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes it's not a good memory. There's a song that reminds me of my grandpa's funeral because somebody sang it. There was only one song played at my grandpa's funeral, and if I ever hear it, that's where I am. That's where I go. But a lot of times it's, who you're spending time with, who you love, who loves you, maybe who doesn't love you,
Right.
all the teenage years.
Absolutely. All the mixtapes we used to make
I
of
miss
that generation.
I miss mixtape.
I do too. Research for this book. What kind of research did you do in terms of country music and
Yeah, I did some really great research in that I got to go to a ton of concerts. And then, yeah, that's a tax write-offable trip I just took to see Brandy Carlisle. So I went to a lot of concerts in the last 2 or 3 years. Some of them just because I wanted to, and some of them were absolutely essential to getting into that space of what do these shows look like, what happens in the crowd, and what do I feel as a spectator. I went to see Sierra Farrell, who's a great country
Yeah.
music artist. She's so good, so naturally talented. She's one of the models for Dahlia in that, she's got like this really like sartorial, she's just like outlandishly dressed all the time. I really love it. But her opening act was an artist named Cam Clyde. And I think maybe she was just an unexpected delight, like somebody I didn't know, somebody I'm experiencing it for the first time. And I really ended up liking her music quite a bit. But also there was a moment where she's a single little woman with a big guitar standing on a stage by herself. Everything is set up for Sierra behind her, but it's just her and her guitar. And the lights were throwing this huge shadow of her up on the wall, and I took a picture of it and I'm like, hello, Dahlia. Like that moment really helped me get a sense of what it was like to be on a stage and vulnerable in that way.
Yeah, so vulnerable, and it's interesting because Dahlia has this tough skin and this dark sense of humor and sarcastic sense of humor, which I think functions for a lot of times her as a defense mechanism. And at the same time, it's like that duality. She can get up on stage and sing, and I think that's one of the most vulnerable things. Even though she starts out singing covers, it doesn't matter. I mean, people are listening to your voice and expecting to feel a certain way. And I think just, wow, how incredibly vulnerable that is. And yet Alex, who's her guardian, like they don't say, I love you. They're not huggers.
Yeah.
So being able to do both, I always find really interesting in people.
Well, I think Dahlia is singing covers. That's what, she likes classic country. That's what she's
Mhm.
a fan of. She loves a Patsy Cline tune. And so,
Who
and her
doesn't?
voice is, in the book, I've written it so that her voice is lovely. She's very talented. She's not taken lessons. She's not, she's just very naturally talented and has a memorable voice like Patsy Cline. But the covers are sort of a cover for her. She is vulnerable in getting up on stage, but she's a little bit Teflon, like by singing other people's songs. She's not digging in very deep into anything that she herself feels or wants to put out in the world. And that's the arc of her story in the book. Can she be herself? Can she get up on stage and be Dahlia and not be this persona? that she has created.
I think at one point she says, I put on other people's lives. It was easier than living my own. She wore clothes belonging to others. I mean, because she talks, I mean, part of her persona and her character is she buys everything secondhand because she's had a tough life and doesn't have a ton of finance.
Yeah. And she likes vintage clothes. Why not?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. She's lived in other people's houses. She sings other people's songs. And so when you think about it from that perspective, yeah, absolutely. That Teflon, that
A
kind
little
of
bit of
shield.
protection. Yeah, it's a shield, like, and can she get up on stage and say things that actually mean something to her, sing lyrics that she's written herself and put herself out there. I mean, a lot of this is, maybe you've picked up on this. It's a lot of this when I was writing about Dahlia starting to put her real self out there. We're talking about me, putting my real self on the page. Can I write a story that matters to me without caring what other people think? Can I write things that are, I mean, I'm not writing about myself, but I'm writing about uh, that feeling of putting yourself out there for the world, which writers do all the time. And people are like, I hated it. 1 star, like, but can you do it anyway? Can you keep doing it?
I think that was for me what I related to most with Dahlia. This podcast is that big risk, right?
Yeah.
So I see you all as writers who are like amazing people. You have friends, heroes, rock stars. And I think, God, they do it every day. They put themselves out there. That's their heart and soul on the page. And then once it's out in the world, everybody's going to experience it differently, partly because everybody has their own life experience that they bring to that book.
Yeah.
But then I think, like, how brave it is for you all to do that. I mean, not only are you doing it in a solitary environment until you get through, like, to the editing process with editors, but okay, well, if they can do it, maybe I can try this and see how that works. And I was like, kind of worked for Dahlia. It's obviously worked for you, Lori Rader-Day, multiple award winner.
Yeah. Can you wreck your heart? Can you put yourself out there, and risk everything? It's worth it. If you can do it, if you can stand up to the idea that other people are going to have opinions about you, and maybe don't check up on those opinions, like, don't seek them out.
Right.
So that's part of it. Protect yourself from that, but can you do it anyway, knowing that the books, the work you're doing, Jen, it may not connect with everybody, but can you do it anyway? Can you do it because you want to do it, because you want it to exist?
I think that's just part of the human condition. And I think people like you all as writers who are in a much more public space than somebody else who's doing a different job, right? But the doing it for you and not needing that external validation to know that this is your space, this is what brings you joy. It's such a life lesson. And
But
we
then
get
you have to find the joy in it, right? Like, I have definitely lived, this is my 8th book, and I think every single book I have made it so difficult on myself in some way. I have just really, like, oh, so I have to be very serious about this. But that's a little bit what I'm trying to do, is, can I find the joy in the process? I used to write as a kid when I first started writing because I loved it. And now I do it. It's a job. It's not a well-paying job, but it's a job. And can I find that playful joy again? Um, that's the big question. So far, so good.
I would say keep it up because it's pretty terrific as readers to be able to read your books. And just Dahlia in terms of being funny. One point, I mean, these are just these lines that kind of I read and laugh out loud. What I needed was a shower, a job, and a different outlook on life. Pretty confident I can manage the shower. She's a terrific character. And then one of the asides, she's, talking about, I know how that sounds. Just shut up. And it's basically talking to us as readers because
Yeah.
we're looking at her going, what are you thinking? What are you doing? You know?
What are you doing, Dahlia? I know. Shut up.
But I think that's the joy that you have brought to this book, to this character. And at the same time, you're following an arc. I mean, there's a mystery involved because that's just who you are. There's a crime, an arc, a journey that the character is going through, and the things, the challenges, the obstacles that keep happening. For example, we talked a little bit earlier about her mom, Dahlia's mom, Marissa, showing up 25 years later, that Dahlia was put in foster care because her mom was a drug addict and had challenges and who couldn't give her a good life. And then she got it together. So much so she got it together that she has another daughter. And Dahlia has the opportunity to meet what is essentially her stepsister,
Half
half
sister.
sister.
Yeah. Although, as Dahlia says, nobody's using the word sister anytime soon, right? Like that's
The
Dahlia.
typical
She's
Dahlia
like,
factor.
no. But she definitely, meeting her half sister is a shock. It's a surprise. She didn't know that she existed. And then as she gets to know her, she realizes Marissa has gotten her act together and she has given a safe and loving home to this other child, which she has mixed feelings about, right?
Absolutely.
She's definitely sort of mildly impressed that Marissa got her act together, but she's also, personally like, but why not for me? Why? And then, what happened to you that you could do this? And why couldn't you do it earlier?
Or reach out earlier. I mean,
Yeah.
because Cicely, her half sister, is a freshman in college.
Yeah.
So she's
That
not like
makes
she's a
sense.
little kid where her mom's had it together for like a couple years, but significant number of years.
And I think that's part of this, what the reader will wonder. And I hope the answer, they will find it in the
Mhm,
in the text. Um,
absolutely. No
Everybody has
spoilers.
their own ideas about how things should go, how they should have gone, and how they deal with, the mistakes they've made or the stories that they've told themselves so that they can sleep at night. Dahlia, I really like the relationship between Dahlia and Cicely. It was really fun to write because I don't plan what I write. You talk to enough writers, you probably get the gamut of this, but I don't really plan what I write. I have a couple of points on the map. I have this country music singer, this country and Midwestern singer in Chicago because I just like to write about Chicago. And I wanted some dogs in the story because I'm enjoying dogs. And so I had fun writing Dahlia walking her roommate's dogs. And then, just see what happens. What's going to happen? I don't know. But so I didn't plan that her mom was going to show up. I didn't plan that there was a half sister. Like it sort of happens as I write. I get these ideas and I'm like, well, let's explore this. Is this going to work? Is this going to be interesting? And what can I learn from the characters as I go? So that the story tells me what it's going to be and what the story arc will need to be. Okay, well, Dahlia is a little bit of a broken doll. So how do we show the reader how that happened? And then how can I get her to heal just a little bit? She's not going to change
No, this is
360.
not an after school special.
It is not an after, no, but how can I change her 1 degree so that the reader will experience that and see that she is, a character that they can understand a little bit.
I think you do a wonderful job of capturing characters that they're not all good, they're not all bad, capturing truly what it's like to be a human being and to have conflicting feelings about the very same thing.
Yeah, and sometimes having feelings that you wish you didn't have, having these like sort of sarcastic or mean thoughts. I love it when one of my characters, thinks the thing that they cannot say aloud. I don't remember which thought I gave to Dahlia, but like, the idea that she kind of resents this half sister having a good life because she didn't get to have one. That's not the sort of thing that you want to see in a character. You wouldn't want to admit that you felt that way, but we do feel these ways.
Right. And I think you being able to bring that to the page, is why readers always buy your books and read your stories, so long as it has your name on the cover, that you know that that's what to expect from you. That a character that is complicated, that a character says or thinks the very same things that you do, which makes me feel a little less alone, or maybe a little less broken, or whatever the right frame is, because like,
Yeah.
okay, other people think this too. And now
Yeah.
I know
But
because you write the books that you think that too.
the little tiny meanest little part of yourself is going to think these things, but that, we're all human and we all have those moments where we wish things were a little different and we
Absolutely.
can't help feeling that way.
Right. And then I guess the difference is if you have the thoughts, okay, it's what actions do you take after you have the thoughts that truly make the difference in terms of the trajectory of your life.
Yeah. And maybe how you treat yourself, just because you had a mean thought, a selfish thought doesn't mean that you're a selfish person. You can be kind to yourself as well.
Right. And we'll talk a little bit about Dahlia, that she's not a solo artist. She has a band, people that she's kind of collected in terms of over the years they've performed together. I mean, Alex, who's her guardian, builds her a stage in the bar so that she has an opportunity to perform. She befriends these people. They're a group, they're her family, her chosen family.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
she has to come to that realization, right? They're her band, they're her backing band at the beginning of the story, but she comes to understand their value. And they are named after a group of my friends. Yeah, so they all have a name of my squad of
you have a friend named
friends.
Rooster.
I have a friend named Erica Ruth
Okay.
Neubauer,
Okay.
whose nickname is Rooster. I have
Okay.
a friend named Jess Lowry. Sorry. I have a friend named
A friend.
Shannon
That's so funny. A friend.
Shannon Baker, Shanny.
Yeah.
And I have a friend named Susanna Calkins, who is Susie. So those are all mystery writers that you should check out. They're all great writers. And I needed, four names very quickly. And I thought, and I needed in my head to be able to separate them out so I could get their characters sort of separated out on the page. And so I'm like, well, I'm just going to name them after my friends. And then I can keep track of them that way. And I did borrow a couple little things for those characters from my friends, and they got to pick out which instrument they played. So on the text, I'm like, "Hey guys, I'm naming my character band after you guys. Here are the instruments. Which one do you want?" So they got to pick their instruments.
Oh, fun. Really fun. Also in the story, I mean, and this is the great thing about your books, and books in general, is that there's so many different layers, so many different stories happening at the same time. You know, her mom, Dolly's mom, shows up after 25 years. She's evicted her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend goes missing, so
He
there's,
runs off.
yeah, runs off, which is why she's evicted, because she believes he escaped with the rent money. So there's that going on. There's her performing and happens to be performing, and there's an agent or a scout in the audience who's intrigued and thinks she's talented. So she's trying to figure out if she's going to be brave enough to try to write something
Yeah.
herself, and then how that impacts group dynamics. Her relationship with Alex, who's always been there as a guardian, even though he's
He's
a
tried to
great
be there.
character.
He's
Yeah.
tried to be there. He couldn't, foster care has a lot of rules. So a single man, he's not really probably old enough to have been her parent, but a friend of her mother. So with his own, addictive past. So he's not a good foster parent, but he's someone who becomes sort of a home for Dahlia, something she always thinks of as a place of comfort, his bar. And then as an adult, she gets to go and be a part of his life. And they are this pair until in the book there's something going on that might split, a couple of things going on that might, endanger their friendship, their little family that they've created, and then the bar itself might be in trouble.
Yeah.
Lots of layers, but that's life, right?
Yeah.
Like look at your own life. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
we're
Things
not just
don't
doing
show
one
up.
thing.
Yeah.
We're not
Exactly.
just solving murders. We've got
Yeah.
stuff to do, bills to pay, and people
Absolutely.
supporting us and letting us down in equal measure, and just lots going on.
Yeah, and I have to laugh again at Dahlia describing what she refers to as the three gyms. There's three gentlemen that are I say gentlemen that are consistently at the bar every day, and that's all
Yeah.
they do is come in and drink. And like, one is Silent Jim, one is Lumpy Jim. It's just, her observations are just fantastic.
I love how she talks about them. All they do is hold down the stools, or they're just their job is to disappear some beer every day.
Yes.
Yeah, they were fun to write too. And when I first wrote, again, I don't plan what I'm writing, but when I first wrote, about the I just needed some people in the bar when she first walks in to show you what the bar looks like, and her relationship with Alex, Alex was there, and I had no idea who Alex was. It was just this guy, and like, well, she's not calling him dad, and she's not calling, that's not her brother, and it's not her boyfriend. So who is this person? And then I needed some people to be customers in the bar, and I wasn't sure what I would use them for, maybe nothing. So I named them all Jim, or she named them all Jim. They, it turns out that may not be their names, but it just, as I feel my way through the story, things sort of appear on the page, and sometimes they end up being really useful. So, you get a certain point into the story and you think, well, what have I given myself to work with? How can I, what are these Jims up to? Like, what are they doing there?
Right.
And they all had their own lives. Each character who shows up on the page has their own life somewhere. Like, why are they here? Why are they not at home? Why are they, what are they paying attention to? And what's going on with their personality? That's the fun. I'm just playing and discovering as I go.
So is the fact that you don't plan ahead, is that what keeps you coming back to write? Because you want to know what happens just as much as we as readers want to know what's happening in the story?
Absolutely. And there are people who will, sit down and spend months working out a story ahead of time and then start writing and work to the outline. But I don't think that would work for me. I really don't see anything in that process that would be interesting to me. The part I like is when I'm writing, I'm actively, I'm typing away or I'm writing by hand sometimes, and something happens that I didn't expect, and the words start to almost like lift off the page in this weird magical way where it's like I'm just following a lead here and I don't know where it's coming from. I don't believe in magic and that kind of stuff or the muse. It's all me. It's on my brain. But I have to be actively writing for it to happen. That's where my best ideas come from, working through a story and seeing a connection that I would never have made. It just happened to me the other day in the work in progress that I'm working on right now. Something occurred to me very deep into the draft where I'm like, oh, I think this is happening. Well, that's fun. Yeah, we'll explore that. But I don't, two things. The reason why I work the way I do, even though it is messy and sometimes I have great regrets about how I live my life and where I'm like flailing around trying to figure out a story. Like, why can't I be one of those people who works everything out and it just lock steps in place and then they are done? Why can't I be one of those people? So sometimes I wish I were like that. But two reasons why I work sort of in this messy way that I do is I love the act of discovery. That's what writing is to me. That's the part that I really enjoy, where I get all my, all the juice from writing. That's where it comes from when something happens and you're like, yes, give it to me. Give me
Right.
more of this. And I just don't think that I would get it from working out things ahead and then writing to it. Maybe I'm wrong. And then the other reason is that I don't think I get my best ideas from that beginning stance when you're looking down the path of a story and just working out what might happen. I don't think I get my best ideas that way. I don't. I know people do. So that's why I work in total chaos all the way through to the end. And then I revise very, very heavily. And that's why, even though Wreck Your Heart was a joy to work on, and I said it was easier. It was not easy because I still had to do the work of revising it. And there was one day where I was revising one scene all day. I mean, we're talking like 8 hours, one scene. It's a scene where Dahlia is talking to her roommate and they're coming to some understanding. Una's relationship to what's going on in the building, and then also Dahlia's relationship to Alex, and there was just a lot to work out in that one scene, and it
It's a
took me
terrific scene.
hours.
Well,
Just to revise it. I'd already written it, and just to revise it, it was because everything had to really like come together in that scene.
it's a beautiful scene.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm very
really.
happy with it now.
Yeah. So if you're writing and you don't plan and all of a sudden you kind of get this idea, obviously that means you have to go back and revise something so that it makes sense to get to that point.
Yeah, I definitely have to either. I don't always go back immediately. Sometimes I'll have to it's called like writing as if. I'm going to write from now on as if this thing
Okay.
is true, this idea I just had. It's one of the tricks of the writing challenges, like where you're writing really fast and you don't have time to go back to the beginning. You write as if this is true. This great idea you just had. Great.
So you're
Okay.
not like
From now on,
overthinking things.
you're just going to keep going. But this thing you've realized, okay, now write as though that is true. Keep going. And then you can go back and revise at a later date. I do revise as I work, not as heavily as I do after I'm done, but I do revise a little bit as I go just because I think I get a lot of satisfaction in a story from knowing, okay, I've got a good base. I can keep working on this. I can keep exploring this because I know I've got this kind of figured out. This is good. If it feels good, I can keep going. I actually stopped my project in progress, not halfway through, but deep into the project and started from the beginning again because I there was something not quite right about the setup. And so I couldn't quite get to the end because I had not, I didn't have that solid base that I needed to finish the story. So it's a mess. It's a mess and every book is completely different for me. Every process is completely different. I had to have something that I enjoy about a project that I am excited to get back to. It's usually a character, somebody that I really want to spend time with. And then I miss them when I'm done.
Don't they
I
still
miss
hang out with you?
Not really.
Is it
No,
because the new work in progress kind of occupies your brain?
absolutely. I'm really focused on, what I spend, 6 to 8 hours on today will be a different project entirely than Wreck Your Heart because Wreck Your Heart is done. So I don't get to spend as much time with Dahlia. And now that I'm talking about her on podcasts like this one or at events, when the book comes out January 6th, I will have a chance to spend more time with her and it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see her again. I actually have had the moment where I have written a book. I've worked on it very intensely, usually revision process probably, and then I'm done and I sent it off to my editor for her to take a look at. And suddenly I'm not spending hours and hours a day with that character. I kind of think in my head very quick, I haven't talked to, that's a character. That person I haven't talked to, quote unquote, for a while, I should check in with, oh, that's a character. Yeah,
I
that
think
happens.
we as readers, feel the same way about a lot of characters in books. Sometimes we want to read really fast because of the pacing. And there are other times where we want to read slow and just savor the setting and the characters and what's going to happen. And if you're reading a physical book and you can see there's only so many pages left, well, this
I
would be a
hate
good
that
time
part.
for me to go wash dishes, or because I don't want it to end, or I think I'll fold
Yeah.
laundry now because I don't want it to end.
Yeah.
And
I
the
definitely
audio's
feel
fan-
that way.
yeah, the audio's fantastic too. Catches the tone.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't read my own work afterward if I can help it, and I don't listen to the audiobooks. I hear great things about all my audiobooks, and I'm like, great. I'm not going to listen to it, because it sounds different coming out of somebody else's mouth than it did in my head. And that's great. We get good readers for that reason because they bring their own spin to it. They make whatever I wrote work and they have their own talents, but it's going to sound different than I imagined it. And that's a little bit weird.
True. I don't listen to podcasts after I do them.
Right?
Actually,
I
I
don't listen to
listen.
myself on a podcast. Good grief. No.
I listen a little bit because I will make a couple minor changes, a couple minor edits, and add some music underneath. Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's what my voice sounds like.
Well, right. It's like listening to your own voice on like your outgoing voicemail message or you got recorded talking to it's just, you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear the outside. Like I give it to singers, who obviously have to listen to their own performances to edit them, they
Right?
hear themselves all the time. Like, how can they do that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good thing we're not singers.
Oh, it's such a good thing that I am not a singer. Such good news for everybody that I am not a singer.
Can you talk at all about your work in progress, or is it not talkable yet?
Sure. It's is a mashup, traditional mystery meets private eye story.
Fun.
Yeah, and so the main character is just a regular person, but she meets a private eye who his character is the character that I just can't wait to write every time I get a chance to write a scene with him. He's just chewing the scenery every time he's on the page. So I think readers are going to really enjoy him. It doesn't have a title yet. It'll probably be out in January of 2027. That's how publishing works. I have a deadline. I have a guiding star of time, but I don't, it's so early. I don't have a title for it yet.
I think it's fascinating that your one book is done, another one is a work in progress, and you have to kind of keep those two together at the same time because now your Wreck Your Heart publishes January 6th, so you've got to keep that fresh, and at the same time you're probably working on the work in progress and revising and
But there will come a time where I'm actually have 3 layers because I will be promoting Wreck Your Heart. It goes on, and then there's gonna be a paperback,
not if, when.
when I will be doing yes, I will be doing it. Uh, and then I will have turned in the book that I'm working on right now, and I will be doing revisions with my editor. I'm being pulled back into that story, at various times as various people put their thumbprints on it, the copy editing stage, the proofreading stage. And then I will be working on the next book, my 2028 book. I'll be drafting that. So, yeah, it's definitely a layered existence. It's interesting.
Can you
But you
read,
do get to spend time with characters that you really enjoy, over time.
do you read other books while you're working?
Oh, yeah. I definitely love to read. I don't want the writing to steal that from me. So I definitely make it an effort to read even while I'm drafting. I just pick what I'm reading a little bit more carefully if I'm drafting. And basically at this point, I'm drafting all the time. But I need to be reading, usually right before bed, if nothing else. I read a lot of nonfiction because it doesn't interfere with any voice going on in my head. I read a lot of like true crime type stuff right before bed. My husband's not worried at all. It's fine. It doesn't give me nightmares. But it also sometimes will give me an idea for a story in some kind of like abstract way. Just it keeps you in
Death at Greenway,
Death at Greenway. If
for
you read
example.
nonfiction, sometimes you are inspired to write full novels that you have no business writing. I was reading a nonfiction book about Agatha Christie and got the idea for Death at Greenway. So the gift of reading keeps on giving.
Fantastic. I can't believe like time just flies. I could spend like the rest of the day talking to you. And I'm sure
I can
people,
spend the rest of the day talking to you so I don't have to work.
well, yeah, I'm good. You're welcome to call anytime you need to kind of procrastinate or work through a scene. So this is storied end, final 5 questions. So in Wreck Your Heart, sights and sounds of Chicago are featured and it becomes a character in and of itself. What's your favorite sound or sight in Chicago?
I love the river. The Chicago River is just gorgeous. There's a boat tour that you can do with the Chicago Architecture Foundation, and it's fantastic. I've done it like 3 times, and I would do it tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow; it's cold here, but
It's
I would
very
do it
cool.
again. Any nice day, you should do the architecture boat tour of the river. It's fantastic.
Tea or coffee?
Well, Jen, you know,
I know.
I'm
The
holding
listeners don't know.
my tea mug right now. Yes, tea for sure. And I drink it English.
Mhm.
I went to England with a Dr. Pepper habit, and I came back with a tea with milk habit that I have lived ever since. I hardly drink anything but water and tea with milk.
Maybe that's what I need to do to break my Diet Dr. Pepper habit. I just need to go to England.
Go to England.
Or
Yeah, go to
move for,
England and break any habit you got.
yeah, there you go. If you were in a band, what instrument would you play or would you be the lead singer?
I would love to have the voice to be the lead singer. I think that would be the ideal, but I do not have a singing voice. I always really liked the bass guitar. I don't know, there's just something really cool about bass guitar or double bass. Oh, I love a double bass.
Hmm. Agreed. Agreed. Doll likes to buy everything secondhand. Are you somebody who likes to thrift, garage sale, estate sale?
I do in theory, but I'm also very impatient. So I'm not a huge, like, let's go to a lot of places and just look kind of person shopping wise. When it comes to actually things I need to buy, I'm pretty focused. But I love, going into a Goodwill or, a thrift store that I've never been to and just looking around. You never know. You're going to find a new teacup, for instance. You never
Yeah, I
know.
was going to say, what's the best treasure you found while doing that?
I don't know. I haven't done it enough, but I definitely have gotten some like printed material, like posters, or I think it was like advertisements. I love old advertisements, and I really love a place in Nashville called Hatch Showprint. it's a place that does all the concert posters for country music, but also, any concert coming through Nashville or anywhere, they probably do. But I have some frame. I keep looking up in the corner because I have some Hat show prints framed in my house, and I just love their work. So, like printed material is what I would look for wherever I go.
It's interesting. The department that I work in, we're also responsible for microfilm. And the great thing about it, and the not so great thing about it, is it's not indexed. So as you're flipping through for the article that the customer has requested, you come across the old advertisements for things and see what things cost and just see how things were marketed back then.
Oh, yeah. I mean, part of the research for Death at Greenway was old newspapers, but it wasn't just the articles and the headlines. It was, okay, what's for sale? How much does it cost? What does it look like?
Right.
Yeah.
And then the final question, because I know you're a big music person, what song would you always include on a road trip playlist?
Ooh, that is tricky. I don't know that I have one song that I would put on every playlist. I love the mixtape, right? The mixtape, we grew up with mixtapes, Gen X forever. And so I love a playlist, but the playlist has to be unique to the situation. So I have an 80s playlist that I can play in my car. I did a girls trip and I'm like, I'm making an 80s playlist. I made a playlist for my best friend for her 50th birthday, just like songs that she and I had in common. Yeah, I think it's more about the situation, but a road trip song, let me think. I mean, I love Patsy Cline. It's been a real joy to spend as much time listening to country music as I have been able to do.
Right.
And I really like that classic sound, like Patsy singing You Belong to Me, which is a cover song for her, but I love her version of it so much. You Belong to Me was one of the songs that I listened to over and over again as I wrote Death at Greenway. And then I came back around to it, Patsy singing it for this book. So You Belong to Me by Patsy Cline.
Great tune.
It'll fix what is, yeah.
Absolutely. Haas, right?
Haas. Hey, Haas.
And I should mention that you have a playlist on Spotify for all your books.
I do. You can go to my website, Lori Rader-Day without the hyphen.com, and under resources, there's a tab for the playlists. So there's a playlist for every single one of my books, including Wreck Your Heart. So you can, and it's long. The Wreck Your Heart list is very long.
But it is a wonderful list. Like you just press play and away you go. Fantastic.
Like 3 hours of your life taken care of.
Yeah, exactly. So quick thank you to all of you who are listening, and to Lori, a huge thank you so much for spending time and talking to me about Wreck Your Heart, and for not running away in alarm in the hotel lobby when we first met.
I love that story.
It is a great story. It's great story.
Should we tell it real quick?
Well, I mean, maybe you should, because you tell it a whole lot better and like without embarrassment.
We met in the lobby of the hotel in Dallas for BoucherCon in Dallas. So that would have been 2019. And so the one thing I got to do as Sisters in Crime National President was that conference. And I was trying to put my bag in with the bell desk, but there was, I thought, a line ahead of me. So when they asked me if they could help me, I was like, no, this lady here was first, and it was you. And you turned and you saw my name tag. I think I was still wearing my name tag, and saw my name and made a sound. Speaking of sounds, made a sound that I cannot quite capture or replicate, but it was a startled, gagging yelp of a noise that made me understand that you recognized my name, A, and B, cared that you were standing in front of me, had read a book maybe, or I had just
all of them up to that point.
Okay. I had won an award the night before, so maybe it was just like, oh, you won an award, yay. And then I saw your name tag and I said, oh, Cleveland, I would love to go to Cleveland for my next book. And so here we are, friends. And we did that. I did several events for you.
It's the equivalent of like a fangirl expression. Like, I can't believe I'm standing next to Lori Rader-Day.
All your appendages like shot out away from your body all at once. And then you built yourself back up and we had a conversation. And here we are.
Yeah. You're fantastic, an absolute gem of a human being, not to mention storyteller. All of you who want to know who else is coming up, just go to storytocount.com. Jen Jumba, thanks so much.